Hello, I am going to go through a video fluoroscopy to show you the structures and the sequence it takes to swallow a bolus. Okay, so looking at this, you can, looking at this one, you can see the lips here, the teeth here, the mandible, the oral tongue, the base of the tongue, the hard palate, the soft palate or velum, the dentition or the teeth, the hyoid bone, which is at vertebrae 1, 2, 3, or 4, 3 probably. This is the valleculae. This typically fills if the tongue base is weak. This is the epiglottis. This is the airway entrance. Sorry, this is the airway entrance. Or laryngeal vestibule. Sorry, that's my dog. This is the false vocal folds, and below that is a small gap that is the laryngeal ventricle, and below that are the true vocal folds. The piriform sinus is on either side of the trachea, but you can really only see that when it's filled with barium. This is the start of the esophageal sphincter, which stops regurgitation from coming up, and it stops from swallowing air. And below this is the esophagus. Okay, so now we will look at a solid bolus being chewed. Okay, so let me go back. So the bolus is being masticated up here and is being formed by salivation that occurs in the salivary glands to moisten and form the bolus. As the bolus is forming, the tongue is creating this little like cradle shape to hold the bolus. The tongue can lengthen, it can raise, it can expand, and it can narrow. So all of these are necessary to produce a swallowable bolus. So this is the oral phase, and the oral phase actually begins when this person either looks or smells the food. So then the food is taken into the mouth, it's masticated, the saliva begins to form, and a small bolus is created. Then the tongue is going to push up on the hard palate, which you can't see here, but you could see here. So this tongue base is going to push up against this hard palate, creating a little slide for the bolus. This soft palate is going to go up to touch the posterior pharyngeal wall, which creates a blockage here so that the bolus does not go up into the nasal cavity. Does not go up into the nasal cavity, causing nasal regurgitation. So anyways, the bolus is being formed, the tongue is up, creating a little slide, the soft palate is up, hitting the pharyngeal wall, and thus either the fascial arches can trigger the swallow, or when the bolus is all the way back here, it can trigger the swallow. Sometimes it's different on people. Lower in the oropharynx, or the lower region of the pharynx, and epiglottal edge. So here's the epiglottis. So sometimes it won't even be triggered till the bolus gets here, in some cases. So then once it hits this point, whether that's here or the falcial arch is here, then that is no longer the oral phase, but then the pharyngeal phase. So then during the pharyngeal phase, let me go back here. Let me see if I can catch it. Oh, okay. See if I can go back. Okay, so the epiglottis is then going to go down to make contact with the arytenoid cartilage to protect the esophagus or airway. So here's the airway. So this epiglottis is going to fold all the way down to the arytenoid cartilage to avoid the bolus or liquid from going into the airway. And so as you can see, the bolus is probably now in the pharyngeal phase because it looks like it's already passed. When this occurs, the hyoid bone will go anterior, and it will go superior some. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see, especially the forward movement. Some people don't, like, their hyoid bone doesn't go very far forward, but there is typically always the elevation. The hyoid bone does elevate during mastication, but you shouldn't mistake that with the pharyngeal phase. So when this occurs, the hyoid goes up and out, which creates the epiglottis to fold down. And when that occurs, we'll go through this sequence. All right, so it's very fast. Let's see if we can watch that hyoid again. Okay, watch the hyoid. All right, so this hyoid is a little bit more difficult to see here, but it does go up and out. So when the epiglottis folds down, this protects it against penetration. When food goes down here, it's called penetration, but when it goes past the true vocal folds, this is called aspiration, because this goes all the way down and into the lungs, which is very bad. So then once it gets past this esophageal sphincter, you are now in the pharyngeal phase, which peristalsis begins, which is a kind of like a natural occurrence of the muscles where they loosen at the front of the bolus and they are lax, or they tighten at the back of the bolus. You can probably see it here. All right, so you can kind of see that little tail of the bolus here, where that peristalsis is beginning, where the muscles are constricting, and the head of the bolus where the muscles are loosening to allow that to go. And then once it's past the esophageal phase, then it goes down into the stomach. Okay, that's it.